Hello, grade 5 students. Mr. Waterman here with today's mathematics lesson, which is going to be a review for 5-1 because they have gotten through all of the notes from the last couple of weeks. So this will be mainly for 5-2 and 5-3, but that's okay for everyone involved to review. Okay. It's Monday, July 12th, 2021, and yes, we are online again. We have 7 days of school left, but we can get through this just as we have all the other times, okay? So last week with all 3 classes, we went over the notes for relate fractions, mixed numbers, and decimals. I'm just going to review what we did, not go into too much detail. Our objective, we had to change decimals to fractions and mixed numbers, and change mixed numbers and fractions to decimals. For our work together, we learned that a survey found that 0.2 of TKS students go to Family Mart every day to eat Fami Chiki. Now, we don't know how true that is. It's just an example. A survey 5 years later finds that 2/5 of TKS students go to Family Mart. Did the 2 surveys produce the same result? So we had to decide whether 0.2 and 2/5 represent the same number. Now we learned to do this 2 ways. Way 1, we had to write the decimal as a fraction in simplest form. So 0.2 as a fraction equals 2/10. When we simplify 2/10, we get 1/5. So you divide the numerator and denominator by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 10 divided by 2 is 5, giving us 1/5. Okay? So on a number line here, starting at 0, going to 1 as our whole number, we have 0.2 and the equivalent, which is 1/5. Okay? Now, just looking at the fractions on the number line, of course, 2/5 is next to 1/5. So already we know that 0.2 and 2/5 do not represent the same number. Okay? We talked about this in class. We asked ourselves, are the results the same? We all said no. And we needed to put a star next to this sentence because it was very important. Locate the fractions on a number line. Way 2, we had to write the fraction as a decimal. So again, make sure you locate the decimals on a number line, okay? Now, in this case, our number line, we have decimals. Again, we're starting at 0, ending at 1. But in between, we have 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8, okay? We already know from the last example that 0.2 and 1/5 are going to be the same. However, when we look at 0.4, our fraction that's the equivalent is 2/5, okay? So we know that 1 out of 5, 1/5, that gives us 0.2 or 20%. 2 out of 5, okay, gives us 0.4 or 40%. Again, are the results the same? No, they are not. Now, 5-1, I believe you have already completed this homework assignment, but for 5-2 and 5-3, you have not. Now, many of you may have taken home your homework books. If you have, that's great. If you have not, then I have attached PDF files of the sheets that you need for this week. Relate fractions, mixed numbers, and decimals. Okay, please remember, decimals and fractions. You write a decimal as a fraction. The example that they give you is 0.7. That is equal to 7/10. Okay, then if you have 0.55, that's equal to 55 over 100, When you simplify that, that's going to give you 11 over 20. Okay? Now, how do we know that? Well, you just divide each by 5. 55 divided by 5 is 11. 100 divided by 5 is going to give you 20. Okay? The next one. Write a fraction as a decimal. 3/4 is equal to 75 over 100, which gives us 0.75. The second example we have is 9/10, which is equal to 0.9. Okay? Now, for the directions, it says, write each decimal as a fraction or mixed number in simplest form. Okay, let's look at number 1. It's 0.42. I'm going to write that as a fraction, which is 42 over 100. Now, you know I can simplify that. I'm going to divide the numerator and denominator by 2, and that's going to give me 21 over 50. Okay? For part 2, it says to write each fraction or mixed number as a decimal. Okay? So we have 9/10, which is an example that they've given us. We know that's going to be 0.9. Okay? Now, for the problem solving, write a decimal and a fraction to show what part of a dollar 1 penny represents. 1 penny, that represents 1 cent, which is the same as 1 yen. Okay? So you need to write your answer in simplest form. Okay? Now, when you're done with that, we're going to move on and we're going to review the notes from last week's lesson. Now, this one was a bit longer. We didn't get through everything. This was compare and order fractions and decimals. So here we learned in our objective to compare and order fractions and decimals. And I will learn about it. Garrett made a clay animal that is 3/8 foot tall. Tiffany made a clay animal that is 5/8 foot tall. Who made the taller animal? So we learned that two fractions with the same or like denominators, so remember the denominator is the bottom number, are said to have a common denominator. You can compare them by comparing the numerators. So the numerators are the top number, 5 and 3. 5 is greater than 3, so 5/8 is greater than 3/8. Tiffany made the taller animal. That was very easy. Now, however, fractions with different or unlike denominators can also be compared. So for this example, we were going to compare 5/6 and 5/8. Okay? We had a few different ways. Now let's look at way 1. You can find equivalent fractions with a common denominator. For step 1, it said to find the LCM of the denominators of the fractions. So we're going to look at multiples of 6. The multiples of 6 are 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. The multiples of 8 are 8, 16, 24, and 32. We have found our LCM. The LCM of 6 and 8 is 24. So use 24 as the common denominator. Now in step 2, you need to use the common denominator to find equivalent fractions. So for 5/6, you need to multiply the numerator and denominator by 4. That's going to give us 20 over 24. For 5/8, you're going to multiply the numerator and denominator by 3. That's going to give us 15/24. Now, for step 3. To compare the fractions, compare the numerators. Since 20 is greater than 15, 20 over 24 is greater than 15 over 24. So, 5/6 is greater than 5/8. Now, to order fractions and decimals, write them in the same form. That brought us to the last page of notes. We had to order 1.5, 1 9/20, and 1.42 from greatest to least. Greatest to least meaning biggest to smallest. Write the mixed number as a decimal. 1 9/20 equals 1 plus 9/20, which equals 1 plus 45 over 100. Now, how do we get that? We multiply both the numerator and denominator by 5. Okay? That gives us 1.45. Now that we have changed 1 9/20 into a decimal, which is 1.45, now we can order the numbers. 1.5 is greater than 1.45, which is greater than 1.42. So, 1.5 is greater than 1 9/20, which is greater than 1.42. To order from greatest to least is 1.5, 1 9/20, and 1.42. And those were our notes. You all have copies of these notes in your notebooks, which you will glue in when you get back to school. For the homework page for this, to do some practice, it's going to be on page 62, and the title is Compare and Order Fractions and Decimals. Let's review. We have different ways to compare 2.4, 2 1/4, and 2.04. Way 1, write the mixed number as a decimal. 2 1/4 is equal to 2.25. Now we compare the decimals. 2.04 is less than 2.25, which is less than 2.4. Okay? Now, way 2. Write the decimals as mixed numbers. 2.4 is equal to 2 4/10. 2.04 is equal to 2 4 over 100. Now we need to rename with a common denominator. 2 4/10 is equal to 2 40 over 100. So you multiply the numerator and denominator both by 10. That's how you get that. 2 1/4 is equal to 2 25 over 100. So multiply the numerator and denominator by 25. Now we can compare the mixed numbers. 2 4 over 100 is less than 2 25 over 100, which is less than 2 40 over 100. Okay? Now, for part 1, it says you need to compare. Write greater than, less than, or equal for each. Let's do an example. Number 1. 0.6 and 1/5. Well, we know that 1/5 is the same as 0.2. Okay? So now we know that 0.6 is greater than 1/5. Okay? Now, for the next part, it says to order each set of numbers from least to greatest. Least to greatest is smallest to largest. Okay? Now let's look at number 9. We have 1/2, 6/10, 0.2, and 0.4. So what I'm going to do, you can change either when you want. I'm going to change the fractions into decimals, okay? So 1/2, that's going to be 0.5, and 6/10 is going to be 0.6, okay? Now, going from least to greatest, 0.2, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6. And there you go. That's it for today's math lesson. You have everything that you need. If you have any questions, please feel free to email Mr. Waterman at any time. Have a great day studying grade 5 students. I hope to see you all very soon. And if you have these books at home, don't forget to bring them to school when you come back, hopefully later this week. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye for now.